Like, what do you say in a place like this? What do you do? The one thing I feel like is the most important thing to do and the most appropriate thing to do is to say the Shema Yisrael. Right? The prayer that Jews have been saying for thousands of years when they know that their life was coming to an end. To dedicate their last moments in this world to their belief, their faith in God and their people. Right? The people who were murdered, gunned down right here yesterday. They didn't even have a chance for that. They didn't even have the few seconds to say Shema Yisrael. Right? Because they were murdered in cold blood by terrorists who came out of the car right over there. So on behalf of them, I want to say Shema Yisrael, and maybe you can say it with me. Here we go. Shema Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad.
Auch wenn es sich in den meisten Zeiten in Jerusalem relativ friedlich anfühlt.
Even though Jerusalem often feels relatively peaceful, attacks remain a part of the unfortunate normality. In the past, there have been repeated incidents involving explosives, shootings and stabbings.
Zu Messerstechereien. Und in diesem Falle ereignete sich eben eine Schießerei, die aber
This particular case involved a shooting, but it was unique, not because it happened, but because it occurred during the ongoing truce negotiated between the Israeli government and the terrorist organization Hamas from Gaza.
Ich war noch am Tag des Attentats vor Ort.
I was on site the day of the attack, yet without a camera, and it was already nightfall. I saw people singing and lighting candles.
Es waren ein paar Kerzen angezündet.
And the next day I returned to the scene, this time with my camera.
Und am Boden hat man immer noch die Überreste der Kerzen.
The remains of the candles people had lit were still on the ground.
Was vor allen Dingen auffiel, war...
But what struck me the most was the normalcy that prevailed in the area. This sense of normalcy is characteristic of Israel, a forced normalcy. People compel themselves to return to everyday life immediately because they refuse to let terrorists control their lives.
Nicht von den Terroristen bestimmen lassen möchte.
Terrorists, of course, aim to spread fear and despair. The Israeli mindset of forced normalcy, tragically so on the one hand, is on the other hand side a part of the survival mechanism of the Jewish people in the Middle East.
Lebensgarantie des jüdischen Volkes hier.
Personally, I was struck by how grateful many of the Orthodox Jews at the scene seemed that someone had come with a camera. People approached me asking why only so few journalists cared about their pain and about the violence that they have to endure.
Vor Ort fiel mir dann noch ein Mann auf, der sich dieser Normalität nicht...
Then I noticed a man who didn't seem to fit into the strange normality. Like me, he walked around the scene, looking at the various posters and pamphlets. He explored the place, then sat down and started recording a message on his cell phone.
In sein Handy eingesprochen. Nachdem dieses Video aufgezeichnet hat, habe ich ihm noch...
Only after he had finished, I asked him a few questions. First, I asked how he explains this peculiar normalcy at a scene where a terrorist attack had taken place only one day before.
I was just teaching a class this morning, and I told my students that resilience for the Jewish people is a survival skill. And especially here in Israel, we need it. Without resilience, we wouldn't have had a state, and that state would have been gone a long time ago. So one of the reasons why we're still here is our resilience. The reason why this looks like a normal bus stop again today, one day after that murderous terror attack, is because of our resilience. Right? We come back to normal as best as we can, as quick as we can, because we know we have to. If we never forget, of course, never forget, but also we need to move on, and that's what's happening here.
Und zum Schluss habe ich ihn dann auch noch gefragt, das ist natürlich
Then I asked him a question that people don't usually ask. Yet it is a question that members of the European and American communities often have in mind.
Warum wollt ihr überhaupt
I asked him why he wanted to stay in this land at all. Why not move to a safer place, perhaps Oregon in America? Or why not go and migrate to Europe? Why would anybody want to stay in the Middle East when life in this region is so hard and dangerous?
We don't have another land. This is our home. But there's nowhere else to go. I came from America 20 years ago. My kids were born here. We know, the world has taught us, unfortunately, that there's nowhere else for us to go except for here. They're the ones who told us that for centuries. Go, get out, go back to Israel. So we did. We did, and now they're telling us to leave here. There's not a chance. We're never leaving here again. We're not getting kicked out of here again. This is our one homeland. This is our one home. Yes, we have to fight for it every single day, and there are sacrifices that come with it, unfortunately, but we're never leaving. This is our one home, and that's why we stay.
Nur 2 Tage nach dem Attentat hatte die Hamas damit begonnen, auch wieder Raketen auf israelisches Territorium zu schießen.
Only 2 days after the attack in Jerusalem, Hamas began firing rockets into Israeli territory again. They broke the ceasefire, and the Israeli military then resumed fighting. Since then, war has been raging once again, and the outcome remains uncertain. However, it's worth noting that the resumption of the fighting has brought a kind of relief to many people, simply because they feel that now they can act and do something again. They feel empowered to take action against the terrorists who barbarically slaughtered around 1,200 people and who are still holding women, children, and of course many men hostage. This feeling of relief is noticeable, and we will see how it evolves.
Und wir schauen mal, wie sich das weiterentwickelt.
Everything remains unclear at the moment. The pressure on Israel from the international community to end the fighting is growing. But the pressure on the Israeli government from within is enormous too.
Innen, der ist gigantisch.
In the meantime, there has been a shift in society. Yes, you can still see the faces of the hostages being held in Gaza, and of course everybody wants them to be rescued. However, what initially seemed secondary now seems to become the central focus: to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth once and for all.
Eine Schiene jetzt nach oben gerutscht ist, und zwar die Hamas ein für alle Mal von diesem Erdboden zu tilgen. Dass man sagt,
more and more people feel that making sure that October 7th will never happen again is paramount.
Nie wiederholen können.
There is a growing consensus that the terrorist organization needs to be eliminated, not at some point, but now. The pressure on the Israeli government from all sides is immense.
Auch weiterhin da sein. Ich werde das beobachten.
I will continue to observe the situation and keep on reporting.